Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Jared and you are watching Bite Size Analysis. At the beginning, I'll be giving a spoiler-free review of the movie. We'll be looking at Halloween 2, the first sequel in this timeline in the Halloween franchise. If you didn't know, there are 5 different timelines, or canons if you will, in the Halloween series. It's important to note that in every timeline except for its own, Halloween 3 is always excluded. We'll touch on this later, but for now, let's get biting.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula.
Halloween 2 picks up exactly where Halloween 1978 ended. We watch as Dr. Loomis gets into a police car and they are going to look for Michael.
I shot him 6 times. This guy, this man, he's not human.
This is the plot for most of the beginning of the movie, but we also see that Laurie was brought to the hospital. The hospital is where most of the movie takes place. This is the first movie in the series that Michael Myers appears to be maliciously killing random people. In the first one, it's kind of centered around the same area. However, this movie is almost the opposite of that, with Michael going around house to house and street to street, choosing someone or not choosing someone to kill. This movie and the original definitely feels like one and the same. This movie explores a little more of Haddonfield and feels only slightly like a Friday the 13th movie in regard to the amount of basically side characters. The kills in this movie are more explicit than the original, and there are more of them, so if you think the original is lacking in that aspect, this movie does it to a different level. However, it still feels like the same movie. I would love to see a cut of these movies that make them all one film. While there are some inconsistencies in them both, I'm sure there is a way to cut them so they make sense. What's important to understand going into this, that this was originally the end of the franchise. It was written like that so the original idea of the Halloween series being an anthology series could happen. That's why we get the cult classic Halloween 3 that's not related to any other movie in the series. If you are a fan of the first movie, you will more than likely be a fan of this one too. Now we are going to get into the spoiler section of the video, but skip to the end or this point in the video. Halloween 2 features Michael Myers being much more terrifying than you could think of, or even thought of as possible in the original film. He walks around in Haddonfield killing random teenagers, an old couple, and some people just trying to do their dang job at the hospital. We end up watching Michael slowly stabbing and murdering people who have nothing better to do than talk in a break room, and never decide to leave the hospital building where people are slowly being picked off one by one. If you are interested in Michael exploring Haddonfield, you're out of luck after the first half hour of this movie. Most of this movie is Michael being kind of a jerk and stabbing some nurses he didn't have to kill. He's only looking for a sister, in this timeline spoiler alert, they are sisters, Laurie Strode, who is quite possibly the easiest she will ever be to find and kill in this series. Instead of using that to his advantage, he decides his best course of action is to kill every single person in his way to basically alert Laurie to his presence. This, surprisingly, doesn't go his way when Laurie tries to hide from him. You would think this movie would have made more of Michael and Laurie discussion / fighting, but actually this movie feels more similar to a Friday the 13th sequel, where we are given a few less than noteworthy characters to watch as they get murdered in one way or the other. We have Jimmy, Laurie Strode's potential love interest, Bud as the token pervert in these movies. There's always one, isn't there?
Let's go down to the therapy room. Bud's finger needs a little bit of therapy.
A girl named Karen as the girl the token perv hooks up with, probably because he wore her down, which is not a good thing. This was the 80s when this wasn't really a thought of thing, but that's not a good thing. Then there are a few characters that we are supposed to know and care about. Their characters don't develop until they are slashed off and murdered by Michael Myers. There's also a lot of characters that we never see until they are murdered by Michael Myers. That happens a lot. I rewatched this movie for this video. There are a lot of kills that just randomly happen in this series, in this film, that aren't intentional and don't really make any sense on where these characters are coming from that are getting murdered. Halloween 2 ends in a way that you would have to expect. Michael Myers has finally met his ultimate goal, Laurie Strode. Dr. Loomis pushes Laurie Strode into the gas room and she follows suit. Michael Myers tries to fight her but gets his eyes shot out by Laurie. Dr. Loomis starts turning on the gas cans to make Michael not understand where anyone is. Laurie leaves the building, and Dr. Loomis then decides to flick a match and blows up the entire freaking room. Michael Myers, we expect to be dead, obviously, because his room that he was just sitting in blew up. He comes barreling out of the door as the Michael Myers Halloween theme plays, and he collapses on the floor, and his mask starts burning up. That is why this is important to understand. This movie was originally ended. This was the death of Michael Myers. This was going to be his death. Dr. Loomis dies in the room, and Michael Myers dies in the hallway. That was the ending of these two films. But we all know how that went. This film, which we can presume as a cash grab by the studio, should never have been made in my book. While it's not a terrible sequel by any means, it marks a period in the franchise where the sequels start flowing and the original ideas get worse and worse. And this time anyways. And with that, a bite has been taken out of Halloween 2. Thanks for watching. I do want to talk about some few little things right here. So John Carpenter did not want to create this movie. He wanted to, keep Halloween as its own movie, but he wanted to make The Thing, his remake of The Thing from Another World. So he created and wrote with Deborah Hill this sequel, and eventually that's why this movie came. It's why this movie is a little weird sometimes, because John Carpenter did not want to make it. He was drunk the entire time he was creating and writing Halloween 2. So if parts of this movie feel weird to you, it's probably because John Carpenter was drunk. And as I decided to talk about earlier, when I do Halloween 3 on BSA, Bite Size Analysis, it's a standalone movie from the rest of the series. Like, entirely. So if you are planning on watching that video, don't expect any funny Michael Myers jokes, as he literally has nothing to do with this movie in any aspect. It's about an evil man who kills a bunch of trick-or-treaters. Wait, that's sounding a lot like Michael Myers. It's about an evil man who makes masks that kill a bunch of trick-or-treaters. Yeah, that's more like it. Halloween 3 is completely by itself in the timeline. There are a few timelines I will talk about in a later video for you, but yeah, I just wanted to give you a heads up that when I make Halloween 3, it is its own films, it is not part of any timeline, it is by itself, because they wanted to make the anthology series, which ended, and the idea that for that ended because Michael Myers was such a great hit that they kind of had to, because people got upset when Halloween 3 did not feature Michael Myers. Thank you for watching. If you'd like, you can go follow my Twitter, it's @SlasherHorror, Instagram, it's also @SlasherHorror. Check the description for links that are vitally important that you might enjoy. Remember, success only comes to those who dare to attempt.